Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I was at home on a quiet evening, trying to unwind after a long day. Mark, my husband, and I have been through a lot in the past few months, but I had no idea that this night would bring a series of events that would forever change the way we looked at life in our small town. Mark and I had just gotten comfortable in the living room and were each busy with our own things. Mark was reading a book and I was looking through my phone to see what was going on. We had been fighting with our neighbor Karen for a long time, so it was clear that things were getting tense between us. She seemed to love making our lives hard, and her best thing to do was park her car in our driveway, no matter how many times we asked her to stop. On this night, I was lost in my own world until a loud thud brought me back to the real world. When I looked up, Mark was already on the floor. I was scared, so I ran to his side and yelled his name over and over again. He had pale skin and beads of sweat on his temples. I grabbed my phone right away and called 911. My voice was shaking as I told the operator what was going on. As I knelt next to Mark, held his hand, and prayed for the ambulance to come quickly. The next few minutes felt like a lifetime. My heart was pounding and I couldn't help but look out the window where I saw Karen's car parked in our driveway again. Even with all this going on, she still managed to make me mad. The ambulance finally came when the sirens started to sound, but my comfort didn't last long because I saw that Karen's car was in the way and making it hard for them to get the car close to our house. Two EMTs got out of the van and ran straight to our front door. I threw open the door, tears and worry making my eyes red. I begged, "Please, you have to help him." And my voice broke. "We will, ma'am," said one of the EMTs, "but the ambulance needs to be brought closer. Can you move the car that's in the way of the drive?" I sighed, feeling both angry and scared. "That car isn't mine. Our neighbor Karen owns it. We've been dealing with this for weeks." Before one of them went to Karen's house, the EMTs gave each other a knowing look. He knocked on her door and talked to her while I stood in the doorway. A few seconds later, he came back with an annoyed look on his face. "That woman is unbelievable," he whispered to his co-worker. "She won't move her car." As they went back to trying to help Mark, I felt angry and useless at the same time. Just as Mark was starting to wake up, the situation got worse. When a police car pulled up in front of our house, two police officers got out and talked quietly with the EMT who had talked to Karen earlier. As I watched the scene progress, my heart was racing and my mind was trying to figure out what was going on. The EMTs were carefully putting Mark on a bed and getting ready to take him to the hospital. Then things changed in a way that was so strange I could hardly believe it. While the EMTs were helping Mark, it seems that the police officers went to Karen's house. Next, I saw something that shocked me. From where I was standing, I saw both cops move quickly and draw their guns. Loud commands filled the air. They told Karen to put down her gun and show her hands. Before I could figure out what was going on, the police officers fired their guns, and the shots echoed through the air. Karen stumbled back into her house and I gasped and put my hands over my mouth. The ambulance doors were quickly shut by the EMTs and we were on our way to the hospital. During the scary ride, my head was full of different thoughts and feelings. Mark's illness, the fight with Karen, and the police shots made an unthinkable situation that had gotten out of hand. After Mark got medical help and was stable for a while, the parts of the puzzle started to fit together. After I left in the ambulance, other neighbors told me what happened after I left. It turned out that when the EMTs asked Karen to move her car, she not only refused, but also told them that the next person who knocks on her door to ask her to move her car will meet her gun. One of the EMTs called the cops when they didn't know what else to do. Karen did answer the door with a gun in her hand when the police came to her house and knocked. The cops took cover right away and yelled at her to drop the gun, and in her panic, Karen fired her gun by mistake, which caused the police to shoot back in self-defense. Somehow, no one got hurt when the two sides started shooting at each other. The results were quick and clear. Karen was arrested and as she was being taken into prison, her cries of, "It was a mistake," could be heard in the air. Assault with a deadly weapon on a law enforcement officer was the most serious charge against her, and Karen was sentenced to 5 years in prison after the court case ran its course. As I thought about what had happened, I couldn't help but feel like things were out of this world. Our long-running fight with Karen over small things had gotten so bad that none of us could have seen it coming. The chaos, the gunshots, and the quick steps of the police had changed the way our neighborhood worked for good. In the middle of all this chaos, Mark's health was the most important thing, and I was so glad he was okay. His heart arrest had been a scary wake-up call that made us realize how fragile life is and how important it is to solve problems without violence. It all began 2 weeks before our 2018 wedding. My husband and I were excitedly preparing for the big day, caught up in the whirlwind of excitement and anticipation. But little did I know, an incident during my husband's stag do would set the tone for the years to come. I remember that night vividly. My husband's brother got excessively drunk and started sharing offensive messages about me with a group of cousins and friends. These texts mocked my appearance, my non-British accent, my family, and even my health issues. It was a hurtful blow that struck deep, tearing through my trust in these people. When my husband found out about these messages, he confronted his brother, leading to a heated argument. Yet, amidst all the turmoil, not a single apology was offered. Instead, his family defended those involved, passing off their offensive comments as mere British humor. They brushed aside my hurt feelings, insisting that I was overreacting. From that point on, I chose to maintain a polite but distant demeanor towards him. I couldn't bring myself to forge any real connection with people who had shown such a callous disregard for my feelings. I focused on my relationship with my husband and built a protective barrier around a little bubble of happiness. Fast forward to Christmas a few years later, and my husband and I had joyful news to share. We were expecting a baby, due in August. As we excitedly spread the word, his brother and future sister-in-law also announced their wedding plans for October 2023. The venue they chose was 2 hours away from our home, a picturesque yet inconvenient location. The moment I received their wedding invitation, I knew that the kid-free policy of the venue would be a potential issue. But I remained hopeful, as my mother-in-law had reassured me that there wouldn't be a kid-free rule. I trusted her words, assuming that our family's needs would be considered. However, the note accompanying the invitation shattered that hope. It stated that a guest room had been reserved for us at the venue, implying that we were expected to leave our 7-week-old baby behind. My heart sank. I couldn't fathom leaving my infant behind, especially in the hands of strangers. My husband stood by my side, agreeing that he wouldn't attend if we weren't all welcome. With heavy hearts, we declined the invitation, explaining our situation. The response from my in-laws was far from understanding. They called disappointed and upset, telling us that it would look bad if my husband didn't attend. My mind raced as I processed their words. If they care about appearances, then our family's well-being. My husband voiced his disbelief at the suggestion that I spend a day in a hotel room with our newborn while he attended the wedding. It was a ridiculous proposition, one that disregarded the bond between a mother and her child. Still, my father-in-law argued that other cousins with small children were making it work, making us feel like we were the unreasonable ones. A week later, father-in-law announced their solution. A cousin's friend would watch over all the family's children, including our 7-week-old baby, in our home during the wedding. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had just undergone a C-section and was still recovering, both physically and emotionally. Leaving my precious newborn with someone I barely knew, alongside a group of young children, was out of the question. We thought we had made our stance clear, hoping that the matter would finally be put to rest. But entitlement knows no bounds. A few days ago, I received a message from one of the cousins, requesting a call to discuss the wedding. My husband and I brushed it off in the midst of our daily activities. Little did we know that this message would become the spark that ignited the entire situation. The next day, my husband and I were taken aback by a call from the cousin's wife. She began talking about what items to bring for her daughter to our home during the wedding. Confused, I asked her what she meant, and then the truth unfolded. My father-in-law, brother-in-law had spun a web of lies, claiming that our absence from the wedding was solely to provide childcare for all the cousins' children. My anger bubbled over, and I unleashed my frustration on the phone. I wasn't going to be manipulated into becoming an overnight daycare service for people who had never even treated me with kindness. The audacity of their lies was astonishing, and I refused to play a part of their twisted game. As expected, my in-laws were not pleased with my reaction. They labeled my refusal as embarrassing, making it seem like I was the one causing the problem. My brother-in-law reached out repeatedly, and some of the participants from the offensive group text attempted to contact me as well. But I stood my ground, refusing to be guilt-tripped into compromising my principles. Amidst the chaos, I found solace in my husband's unwavering support. He saw through their manipulations and understood the importance of standing up for what's right, even if it meant facing criticism from some family members. Yet, not everyone shared our perspective. Some family members accused me of holding on to a grudge and attempting to ruin my brother-in-law's wedding. They saw my actions as petty and vindictive. It was a painful realization that not all battles are fought on fair grounds. As the days ticked by, I couldn't help but question myself though. Was I truly being unreasonable here? Was my refusal to bend an overreaction? But my husband's reassuring words reminded me that we were making choices based on our values, not on the expectations of others. So here I stand. I may not have the support of every family member, but I had the support of the one who matters the most, the man I chose to stand beside through thick and thin. And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, "Not that jerk. Be prepared. They will leave their kids at your doorstep on a day off. Don't be home. Plan a trip with your baby and husband. Your husband is doing the only thing that he should do, and that's not going to that wedding. Especially since his family keeps disrespecting you." His wife put a note on the door saying, "Sorry for the confusion, but our family house is not available for childcare during the wedding. Please contact brother-in-law for the correct arrangement made for childcare." My pity self would then sign the note with lots of love and date it a week before the wedding as if you had gone the whole time. This way points out that brother-in-law was informed well before the wedding that the house wasn't available and put it on him for not making other arrangements, just in case anyone shows up, you know? ETA, I mean to put a note on a door if you are home and pretending not to be or don't want to open the door when someone tries to drop kids off. I would never advise someone to put a note on a door saying we aren't home if you won't be. The sheer audacity. Another commenter adds, "Damn his family who doesn't understand that you just gave birth. They need a reality check. You are sleep deprived taking care of an infant. It sounds like it's your first child, so everything is scary and new. And you have to adjust and learn and figure how to take care of the baby and yourself. You are still in recovery. C-section actually takes longer to recover, so you are still in pain. To expect from someone who had a surgery and her body needs to recover and is sleep deprived while taking care of a baby to watch 6 other kids is just insane." A third commenter goes with, "Not that jerk. You don't owe them anything, and not attending a wedding because of a new baby is entirely reasonable. Before the rest of the drama, I would have said it would be good for your husband to still go. Maybe leave early to drive back home to you. But after this behavior, maybe not." My late husband's ex-wife is a crazy person, and I never thought I'd have to deal with someone like her. When we first met, he told me that his last relationship was a bad experience that he wanted to forget. He never liked saying bad things about people, but he did say, "That was a very bad time in my life, and I'd like to leave it in the past." As we got to know each other better, he told me about her. She had been unfaithful to him and tried to get him to start a family with her. There were whispers that one of her lovers might have made her pregnant. On top of that, she left him with a huge amount of debt. Before she left the country, she used up all their credit cards and he was left to clean up the mess, which kept her mess from hurting his credit score. She came back into the picture about a year before I did, trying to get back in touch through common friends. To get away from her, my husband had to change his number twice. The second time, he cut off people who had given her his new phone number. It looked like he was finally done with her, but then she found my phone number. I didn't know what to do when she called. How did she know my phone number? Why did she want to talk to me? Her voice sounded nice enough, but I've had to deal with more manipulative family members than her. She tried to get us to like each other by saying that we both had great taste in men, but I could tell that her words had a hidden meaning, that she was trying to plant seeds of doubt in my mind. She started trying to be my friend by saying she was a member of the sisterhood and felt forced to tell me a secret before we got too close. I let her talk because I was interested in how much she was lying. After the call was over, I noticed a small change in the people my husband and I were friends with. Her group of friends shrunk, probably because she was always trying to get into our lives. Even though we blocked and avoided her, she kept trying to hurt our relationship. She never stopped making herself out to be the victim and us out to be the bad guys. But what she did only made our friendship stronger. We have been through hard times together and came out of them unharmed. As time went on, my husband died in a very sad way. A friend called me and hesitated before asking if I had seen that day's Facebook post. It was a long, tearful dedication from his ex-girlfriend on his memorial page. She talked about how much she missed her soulmate and showed pictures from when they got engaged and when they got married. Her words were full of lies, and she said things that were not true about how she felt. I was filled with anger and rage. How dare she change his memory to make it fit her story? I removed her from the group and erased the post right away, but the harm was already done. Again, my group of friends got smaller as I cut ties with people who had shown concern or helped her. It was hard to decide, but it was the right thing to do for my own health. Even though she had made a mess, I wouldn't let her win. I turned my sadness into resolve because I knew my husband wouldn't have wanted her to have this much power over us. I relied on the real friends and family who stayed, the ones who saw through her act and stood by my side. Over time, I found strengths I didn't know I had. I saw that her deception came from her own feelings of insecurity and envy. She couldn't move on with her life because she was stuck in the past. On the other hand, I was making a future for myself that wasn't affected by her poison. I started to think about how to honor my husband's memory in real ways, with people who really cared. I reminisced about the good times I had with friends who had stuck by me. I told them stories and told them about my favorite memories. Slowly but surely, the darkness she had cast over his mind started to fade. In the end, her efforts to control, manipulate, and lie fell apart completely. Life went on and I took the lessons I learned from this event with me. I learned how important it is to be real and to never let someone else's plan shape my life.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.